We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Janella.
I'm Jewel.
And we are Couples Academy practitioners, and we're coming to you this morning. And excited that you're here. So wherever you are tuning in from, dialing in from around the world, we want to know who you are. We want you to represent your city, state, and country so that we can give you a shout out. We appreciate the fact that you're a part of our community. This is the place where we come together every single day to talk about love, life, and relationships. We're talking about a new topic, and we're going to chew on this for a little bit. The 10 ways people avoid intimacy. Now, as you know, intimacy is probably one of the most important emotional needs in a relationship. When people initiate a relationship, there's a lot of intimacy. Over the course of time, it seems like there's a huge disconnect. And oftentimes, infidelity, betrayal is a result of a gap or wedge in the intimacy that a couple normally should have. And we're going to be talking about the reasons why that happens, how we have gotten here, how to recover and get things back on track. But before we get started, this weekend is our last chance weekend. We're just a couple days away, We're excited about the few couples who are coming. But for you, it's not too late. If you're interested, certainly know that you can reach out to us. Simply go to our website at couplesacademy.org or set up a discovery call. Of course, I'm going to do this. This is our tradition. I'm just going to give you a quick little snippet of what the last chance weekend is like. And then we're going to dive into today's conversation. So stay right there. That's right. That's the last chance weekend. So it is not too late. Make sure you get in because it's a transformational experience. But let's dive into today's conversation. We're talking about 10 ways that people avoid intimacy. Now, I want to talk about some extremes. You have what is called the love addict and then the love avoidant. So the love addict is the one who desires love and intimacy and they can't get enough of it. And they just want to spend all their time with you and they want to touch and feel and cuddle and connect. And then you have the love avoidant, the one that I'm good, back up, give me space. I'm good in my own skin. They are very autonomous and independent. And in extreme cases, they don't need to be bothered. Right? So what happens when you have a love addict who enters into a relationship with someone who's a love avoidant? Now you have a lot of problems. It kind of reminds me of the TV show back in the day. Maybe I'm dating myself, but Tom and Jerry. Do you remember the cartoon Tom and Jerry? You had a cat, you had a mouse, and they're constantly chasing each other. And as one moves forward, the other one's moving away. And that's how it typically happens. Think about windshields, right? The windshields on your car. This is an actual marital pattern. It's called the windshield wiper marital pattern. Now, one thing about windshields, when one windshield is moving to the right, the other one's moving to the right. One moves to the left, the other one moves to the left. They never touch. In fact, the only time two windshields touch each other is when they're broken and something needs to be fixed, right? And so, likewise, there's this distance, there's this space in between two windshields. And oftentimes, that's what happens in a love avoidant type of relationship. And when there's a gap in the wedge and a space between the two, what happens is all types of problems can set in that relationship, and a third partner can creep on in, and now we're in a betrayal or an affair situation. And this is where many of us have found ourselves. So we're going to be talking about this love avoidant personality, where it comes from, why it exists, how it shows up in a relationship. Let's bring these two powerful pack ladies into the conversation. Jewel, talk to me about this love avoidant personality type that we see in many of our relationships.
First, let's start with love avoidance normally starts at a very young age. It can start from being in a relationship. It's a defensive coping mechanism for a child that has controlling, demanding, or needy parents or people around them. I.e., having a parent or a sibling that has an alcohol or drug abuse, where they're just needy. And that type of trauma is just too much. So therefore, they just kind of close off to that intimate connection where all they are doing is functioning at that point in time. And then when they transition into adulthood, it sticks with them, where at that point now they're evading intimacy. They don't want anything to do with intimacy at all. So basically, when you were talking about a love addiction and a love avoidance, where they can be a person that have love avoidance, they can be in a relationship. They can be close, but when you get too close, when you get that love feeling, where that love addiction that you were saying, I need, now they need to back up. They need their space, and then they become a different person. So it's not that they don't want to have relationships. They don't want that intimacy that comes with a relationship.
I think that's powerful to say that, many people have even said that love avoidance, this type of issue, is really an intimacy disorder.
Yes.
Right? Because this type of personality views intimacy as, they feel engulfed, they feel suffocated, they feel controlled. They feel, in essence, emotionally claustrophobic. And
They have a fear of closeness, vulnerability, sharing their feelings, they and abandonment. So it does come with this disorder is seriously, it's real. It's real.
And that's a problem if you're talking about having a healthy relationship, because you are supposed to share with your partner the one thing that is not allowed to be shared with any other person. And you could see how, if you won't even share this with me, and now I feel like I'm not even getting the benefits of this partnership. I'm not getting love. I'm not getting affection. I'm not getting time. I'm not even getting conversation. Then there's a deficit in me, and I'm starving. I'm starving and I'm thirsting for something that should normally be a byproduct of our partnership, and not a justification. But you could see how this can cause a temptation and a vulnerability in a person to kind of pursue this type of normal affection outside of their relationship. And that's why we have so many people who are involved in affairs. So thank you for that foundational breakdown. Let's talk about some of the ways that people are avoiding, because I think it's important to kind of delve into this. And this is the obvious one right here, right? Number one, avoiding physical closeness. Now, I remember when we were in a bad space in our marriage, this was a reality up in our home, where Danielle did not want to be bothered. Like, literally, there was avoidance of sex. There was a reduction of any type of sexual contact at all, let alone any type of physical affection, right? The proximity that we once had was gone. So if we were on the couch, typically cuddled up watching TV, now she's on one end of the couch, I'm on another end of the couch. So there was no physical closeness, which ultimately led to an emotional disconnect. There was no emotional closeness. Hugging, it was almost like a, okay, all right,
Church hug.
church hug, right?
Yeah.
You know the church hug where you kind of you do the sideways hug and you're very
6 feet, buddy. 6 feet.
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? That's what we had in our marriage, holding normal holding hands. It was almost like it was uncomfortable. Like when I would attempt to hold her hand, it was just like, okay, after 30 seconds, I'm good. Like there
good.
would be an awkwardness. Our stride would not even be in unison. She's walking ahead of me, I'm walking behind her, or vice versa. And these are the realities that we see in relationships when there is a disconnect. The physical closeness is almost shunned. And that's one of the ways that it shows up. Is this resonating with any of you? Now, I know we've all been through struggles. Have you experienced this in your marriage?
Yes.
I was so happy we used to have 2 sofas in the house. Like we used to watch TV. You sit on one, I sit on the other. We do not need to be sitting together. I need 6 feet.
Or you use that look, you use that excuse. Well, you want to watch the game, and I want to watch something else. I'll go upstairs, and you stay down here.
Well, see, I like the game, so just stay on the other sofa. And then I've been doing the 6 feet thing, like for COVID. That was new. When we were going through our thing, 6 feet away, my hands was like this, back up. So yes, we can relate.
Interestingly enough, we saw I Love Lucy way back in the day. And, with the FCC, they were very careful about what would be shown on television because they didn't want to pervert the minds of the viewers, where you had a husband and wife. They each had their own bed in the bedroom. And interestingly enough, there are people in marriages today who literally function like that. Either they have 2 separate beds or 2 separate bedrooms, or if they're in the same bed, I don't care how small that bed is, it could be a twin bed, but somehow it'll feel like a California king when there's distance and disconnect in that relationship. And so it's a bad space. We say that one of the areas that people struggle the most, or where one of the problems shows up first, is in the area of physicality. When couples stop touching, it is an indication that something is wrong in the relationship. Listen, guys, we're just getting started with this conversation. We're going to dive into many more ways that individuals are avoidant in their relationship and how that can ultimately lead to its demise. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Couples Academy is committed to serving couples around the world by reaching beyond cultural lines and language barriers. We are proud to announce that we now serve the Spanish-speaking community. So whether you're here in the United States or abroad, Couples Academy has a place for you.
Couples Academy se compromete a servir parejas de todo el mundo, superando las fronteras culturales y las barreras del idioma. Ahora, estamos orgullosos de anunciar que servimos a la comunidad de habla hispana. Entonces, ya sea que estés aquí en los Estados Unidos o en el extranjero, Couples Academy está aquí para servirle.
All right, we're back. We're talking about the 10 ways that people avoid intimacy. Got a couple comments that came in. Don't want no kiss, no hug, no anything. That's real. That's real. And that is a sign that there is trouble at home. The middle sofa cushion feels brand new because those end ones are worn out. Now that is a fact. That is something that we can all relate to. So the
So
physical
true. So true.
so true. Well, let's go to the next one. Number two, we're talking about ways that people avoid intimacy in a relationship. Number two, there's a refusal to make a commitment. Janella, come on, share with us what this looks like.
This individual will do anything or just about say anything to avoid commitment. I'm not ready for a commitment. I'm no good in relationships. I mean, they would just do anything. I never had a good relationship. Anything to make sure that this relationship do not have a commitment, they will do it. But interesting enough, this person will be in like a monogamous relationship. They will have the look and the appearance that we're in a relationship, but the refusal to actually commit. I mean, they are avoiding it. It reminds me of like love scenes or in the movies, or for those who watch like the daytime soaps and stories back in the day. You know how they'll have a couple, you'll be rooting for them. They look like, man, this is a great couple, but they'll be getting ready to make that embrace, and a person will pull back and just be like, I can't do it. And then go on the outside of the door and put their head back. I mean, it's just like the relationship is here, but they just cannot commit. And I was just thinking about what you said earlier, Jewel, the developmental stages, those early stages that happen, it really can mess things up as people grow older. If they don't deal with those struggles that they had as a child, and it almost feels childlike. It's almost like they stop and just do not have the emotional or intellectual ability to move forward because of the fear and because of the stress and strain that they went through. So this person refusal to commit, I mean, they will do anything to stay out of a committed relationship.
And you know what? Even into your point, even when they've been in is considered a committed relationship, because this is how a spouse shows up oftentimes in a relationship, because of that past childhood trauma, right? What they've observed growing up. Maybe they didn't see a healthy relationship between mom and dad. Maybe they've had previous relationships prior to their marriage that didn't quite work out so well. So they already have a negative perspective or disposition to commitment and to relationships. So while they're there, it's almost like there's more of a commitment to the marriage than to the relationship, right? So we could be married because we got kids, we have this house, we got to pay these bills, but don't expect anything in terms of a intimate, heartfelt connection, because that's just not what I do. That's just not who I am. I haven't had an example of it, so don't expect for me to show up any differently in this committed thing called marriage.
Those would be the ones who tell you all the time how much they care about you, but you're never going to hear how much they love you. Because or they're going to be in this relationship for a period of time, and as soon as she say or he say, I love you, go. It's time to go.
That is interesting, because that's the third point, right? Someone who avoids verbalizing the I love you, because it's so interesting how many of us are slaves to our upbringing. Like, so you mean to tell me because your mom and dad didn't say it, you can't form your lips to say it? So even though you are a 45-year-old adult in a marriage for the last 10 years, you are still the child that you were while you were in your parents' home. That's when you stop learning. That's when you stop growing. So because you never saw it, you can't do it. I mean, it's interesting how we are trapped in time zones. Like, there's this internal age. Biologically, I'm 45, but internally, I'm still that 12-year-old boy who has deficits and who has a bad experience. Like, you haven't grown, you haven't developed, you haven't forced yourself to become a better version of yourself. Like, to say I love you is so incredibly important, because even if you feel you're demonstrating it, you need to affirm it, because your spouse needs to hear it. Especially if their love language is words of affirmation. And so, to your point, Jewel, the justification is, well, you should know how I feel. You see what I do around here? I'm still here, ain't I? I showed up, didn't I? Like, why do you have to hear it? I didn't said it when we got married. I didn't said it when we started dating. How many times do you need to hear it? Constantly. You need to soak and saturate your partner's mind and heart with expressions of love. And when you don't do that, it creates a problem.
Most definitely.
All right, let's go to the next one. Let's dive right into it. The fourth way that we don't show affection in relationships, it sabotages when things are going well. Talk about that,
Oh, this one is huge. I mean, this person literally start arguments for nothing. I mean, everything will be going well and they would just become aggressive, angry. It's like goodness is a bad thing. Like I have to disrupt this thing. Like I feel trapped, and now you're wanting all of this from me. No, this is going too good. They will argue. They will just not be committed, not show up. There's a term now that you may hear. They may ghost you. We're having a date, or we're preparing to better this relationship, and we're discussing things. This is our plan. Let's go out. Let's have fun. Let's do something nice. They just won't show up. They're just not a part of this. They want to sabotage this relationship because that is strangely enough, is their safe place, because they have all of this unhealthiness that's going on within them.
And I want to draw a distinction, then bring you in, Joel. You're sabotaging the relationship. They're committed to the marriage. I'm not going anywhere. We can do this thing, but I'm sabotaging this relationship. And those of you who have watched us long enough know that there's a major difference between relationship and marriage. We're not using the terms interchangeably. And that's the problem. An emotionally avoidant person does not want the relationship, though they want the marriage. If you don't understand that, please let us know in the chat so that we can properly explain it. But you hit that spot on. Drew, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that is why you have so many walls that will not, and cannot come down in marriages, is because they need that separation. I mean, they've already committed to the marriage, so of course they're in there to take care of the kids and pay the bills. But that relational, that piece right there, where now you have to come into my world and soften up what I have built so hard to stay strong with. Those are the hardest walls to bring down. It's not impossible, but it is extremely hard.
C. Jenkins says, I didn't grow up in a household where I saw intimacy. I saw duty and loyalty and thought that was love. That is
exactly
so powerful. That is that right there, because we all grow up in different households, and this is what helps shape what we will call the family marinade. So if for me, love is duty, task, responsibility, but for you, love is emotional connection, then we are both loving each other, but we're loving each other wrong, right? We're loving each other genuinely, but our partner isn't receiving our expression of love because it's different. And this is why we have to constantly evolve. And this is why Danielle and I, and I'm sure many of you have done this at some point in your relationship, when we first started dating, we said, you know what? We want to get to know each other, but we also want to know what it takes to make a relationship work. So we literally read books together when we were dating. I remember doing it because we wanted to make sure that we were connecting the right way so that we would build a healthy foundation. So something as simple as that, I tell you, can cause a huge wedge in a relationship. Carlissa says, and I don't know what you mean by this. What is it when men need to hear "illy" all the time? I don't know what
you. I love you.
Oh, is that, guys? What's it called?
Okay.
Yesterday, somebody put some acronym in there on that. Please.
Soon to be X. That's what it was.
What was it?
Soon to be X.
Yeah, I'm like, what in the world is STBX? I'm like, what is that? So please, just know I'm just going to read exactly what you write. And if it's not making sense to me, just spell it out, folks. Spell it out.
You know what, Hassani, to answer that question and to what you said, she wanted to know why does her husband always have to hear "I love you." And then the lady before was talking about, the loyalty. So one of the things that I realized, and I've had this conversation with my mom, was growing up, I've never seen them argue, never seen them fight. But they never went on vacation together. One sat on one side of the room, one sat on the other. One was upstairs, one was downstairs. But I knew they loved each other. To me, that was the norm. So relationships back then, that's how they functioned. It was okay. You can't take what you saw growing up to be what a marriage is to be now, and use that as a outline on what your marriage should look like, because it's not going to work. Now, for the lady that said, why does her husband have, he probably heard that all the time. I love you. I love you. I love you. You know what I'm saying? Oh, baby, I love you. You know, mommy saying daddy, daddy saying to mommy. And most people that need to hear that all the time, either they've heard it a lot and they feel as though that's what they should hear, or they just didn't hear it enough and now they need to hear it.
And another thing, Jewel, I was thinking about with my family, my mom and dad, I thought they had the perfect relationship. I loved them. They were so full of balance. They was fun. They served in the community, all that great stuff. So I thought that because I saw that I had all the tools and knew how to love. And I totally forgot that I was getting married to someone who was going to come with his family way, the things that he was marinated in and what he was going to need. But I figured I got this. It kind of almost ignore what he needs. And sometimes we forget that it's not just like all about us in the relationship, and we have to make some adjustments. It can't just be what I saw all the time and that's what's going to make it great, but we have to work together. And I love that Hassani and Danielle knew to do that while they were dating. A lot of couples just pass over that, like to really, we can give ourselves permission to learn, to grow, to actually set a standard. It doesn't have to be all dysfunctional and carrying all this trauma into the relationship and running out the door. It's just craziness.
You're absolutely right. Spot on. Mary uses the term intimacy anorexia, and we did a series on this, and that's exactly what this is. If you get in your head an image of a woman who struggles with being anorexic, right? She's very, very, very skinny, so much so that you can see her bones. Her skin is sagging. I mean, in a normal weight, maybe she was 140 pounds. I'm making something up. But now she's like 67 pounds and she's looking sickly and deathly, even. Well, that's what can happen in a relationship when there's no emotional connection. It is an emotional anorexic type of relational dynamic, and your marriage is suffering tremendously. And so that's why I'm glad we're talking about this, because it's really helping us to course correct and build up a wall of protection to prevent betrayals from happening in the future. Dark Knight says, thank you for sharing this. Good morning. What a topic. I'm in a position where I am afraid to initiate any type of intimacy with a future spouse because in my previous relationships, I've always gotten rejected constantly. Well, you know what? This is why you need to be alone. You don't need to be in a relationship, because you're going to bring that past hurt, past pains, all of those issues from the past into your present relationship. And now your present partner is going to be held hostage to past situations that you have not healed from. And this is why we say it's so critically important that you understand the difference between being separate and single. You could be physically separate from a past partner, but if you still have hurts and pains and all types of things from that past relationship, you're not single yet. There's got to be a singleness of heart, a singleness of mind. You've got to go through a spiritual transformation, emotional healing, relational restoration, a she or he tox, getting the person out of your system so that you're ready to enter into another relationship. Many of us are broken and fragmented and beat up and want to race into another relationship. And all we do is break other people that had nothing to do with what we came from. And this is why individual counseling, individual journey of transformation is so critically important. It is the foundation of it all, because you are the lowest common denominator in every relationship you enter into. So if I'm broken, I'm going to have a broken relationship, right? And so, brother, I've heard from you. We want you to reach out to us. I see you. I don't know who Dark Knight is. I know that that's another name for your real name, but reach out to us and let's see how we can serve you. But anyway, we're just getting started with this topic. I tell you, we're going to do a part 2 to this because it goes deeper. But Janella and Jewel, I want to thank you for who you are, for your brilliance, and for what you've shared as we, lay a foundation to do a deeper dive. So until then, guys, we love you. We will see you in the morning for another episode of the Couples Academy Show. Take care.